Sean shook herself awake. She didn't know whether to be thankful that it had just been a dream that she had just had, or terrified that she had been asleep while driving. She was just grateful that she was the only car on the road. She couldn't remember how long she had been driving. All she knew was that the road was long, extremely long, and that fatigue threatened to consume her. She looked at her surroundings. Not much to see, she thought disappointingly. Little bush here, little bush there, dry grass everywhere. A barren landscape, and the never-ending stretch of tar around her. At regular intervals, small patches of the grass were bare and showed sparklingly white sand. It was strange to see so much sandy soil inland, almost as though it were a beach sand, she thought, but dismissed it as one of the other strange wonders of the country. It was no wonder that she had such a strange dream about the vegetation of the area, or lack thereof, and barrenness. She must have been studying it before she fell asleep. Behind the wheel, she reprimanded herself. Strangely enough, she couldn't remember where her point of departure had been, almost as if some great force had just erased all her previous memories. What she definitely felt, quite strongly, was that she had escaped from somewhere that she no longer wanted to be, and that this would be a new start for her. Straightening her back in her car seat, she realized that her body had become quite uncomfortable, and deduced that she must have been in that sitting position for quite some time. Time to make a stop. But where could she? Another strange occurrence of this area was that there were no navigational signs on the road, and for some reason, a reason she couldn't remember, she had forgotten her navigational tool from the area she had come. Dusk came, and the beauty of the blue-purple sky before her bouncing off the pinkish white of the clouds astounded her. Thank goodness for pollution, she thought sarcastically. Otherwise, I would never have seen such a beautiful sunset. Then panic struck home when she realized she had nowhere to settle for the night. She picked up her cell phone, hoping to call someone, anyone, for direction, help, information, anything at this point. But there was no reception. Throwing her phone on the back seat, she cursed. Just when she needed it, it left her in the lurch. But when she needed peace and solitude, it wouldn't stop beeping, ringing, or making some other sort of annoying noise. Drawing in a deep breath, she decided to drive on further and be more observant to the areas around the road. Tire markings, gravel roads along the signs, everything, anything different. She could afford to do that, as she had been the only one on that road for as long as she could remember. After driving for some time, she saw houses on the horizon. They looked like old wooden houses. She was about to drive past and stop at something that looked like it had a speck of brick in the construction, as she wasn't looking forward to using an outhouse at 4 a.m., but she had a feeling that there were very few areas of civilization to be found. So she turned into the gravel road leading to the inhabited area. She found the gravel entrance on the left and slowed down, and turned her indicator on to warn others of her intent to turn. Ugh, who am I indicating for? She rolled her eyes. She continued on the gravel road and noticed with surprise that there were no potholes in the road, almost as if it were made yesterday, and she was the first to ride on it. Oh, no surprise, she thought. Who else would be unlucky enough to be stuck in this barren place? The colour of the gravel was also strange, a deep orange colour, which appeared different to the colours of the soil around her. She wondered if someone had imported it, and from where. Who would drive all the way to nowhere and deposit tons of gravel for a path? She shook her head when she realized how much it must have cost the person in charge of construction. Then unease gripped her stomach in the failing light. Would anyone even open their doors to her? Why would they? She was a stranger to them, and she certainly wouldn't open her door to anyone at this time of the evening, as it's simply not safe. Besides that, which door would she even knock at? She had a fleeting thought of knocking at the door of a psychopath and never being seen again. Shaking her head to abandon these thoughts, she decided to press on, reach the houses before dark, and try her luck as best she could. Again, surprise washed over her when she saw that all the buildings were marked, as they were always marked in Western films: barber, saloon, town hall, tailor, including others that she had no interest in, and hotel. There were lights on inside the buildings, and Sean sighed in relief. If there was a source of electricity, there would also be hot water. Oh, she yearned for the comforting warmth of a shower. She parked in the gravel road outside the hotel and cursed that she would have to sort the suspension of her car out again. Grabbing her handbag and making sure that everything else that could be stolen out of her car was either locked away or hidden under the seat, she opened the door and was met with a surprisingly warm breeze, the likes of which she had never seen before or felt before. Calming, spirit-lifting. It circled around her, stirring her hair, and enveloped her, almost as if to welcome her home. Spirits sufficiently lifted, she realized that she should be grateful. At least she had a warm bed to sleep in, and didn't have to drive to goodness knew where in the dark. Her stomach clenched in nervousness, though. She was not used to new things, new experiences, new people, and new environments, and was dreading knocking at the door. Pull yourself together or sleep in the car, she chided herself. She knew that sleeping in the car alone in a completely strange place and in the complete darkness was not going to be an option. She couldn't believe that at her ripe old age of 32, she was still scared of being alone, as well as scared of strange places. Certain things were difficult to outgrow, she reminded herself. Stretching slightly, straightening her back, and lifting her head in a poor attempt to show confidence, she walked up the few steps and knocked on the front door. For a wooden house, the wood had been impeccably treated and well looked after. The door and outside walls shone in the dying rays of the sun with deep shades of mahogany. The front windows looked as though they had recently been cleaned and polished, and the mat outside the front door looked brand new, as if it had been bought on that day. She heard some shuffling behind the door and braced herself for an old woman, barely able to stand, large hunch on her back with a toothless grin and warts on her nose. The door opened silently, and a well-groomed woman who looked to be in her 60s peered at her from inside the house, fashionably dressed and presenting a large, warm and welcoming smile. "Good evening," Sean said slowly, wondering if this woman even spoke English. Judging from the pain of her joints, she deduced she had been driving for quite a long time. She wouldn't be surprised if she were in some other dimension, let alone state or country. The woman continued to look at her, not study or judge her, Sean noticed, just simply look at her, with large, curious eyes through shocking pink-rimmed glasses. "I'm Sean James, and I've been driving an awfully long time. I don't even know where I am at the moment. Are you a real hotel that I can book into for the night?" "But of course, dear. Why would you ask that? The sign is up on the door." The woman laughed loudly, as if she had just heard the most amusing thing in all her life. Embarrassed, Sean thought about leaving, but the dread of the endless drive she had just come from, in the dark, forced her to continue the conversation. "Forgive me, I didn't mean to insult you. It just feels as though I've wandered onto the set of a movie production," Sean continued in a much softer voice, confidence blown out the window. The woman gave a quiet laugh, and Sean admired the beauty of her eyes. "Wow, that's the first time I've heard of something like that spoken about my town. Oh well, I suppose there's a first for everything. Please come in, my dear. My door is always open. Don't worry about the rates. We'll discuss that later. I just need to get you in and comfortable. Let me show you to your room." Not even bothered by the fact that she didn't have any baggage with her, the woman walked briskly down the passage with Sean in tow. The wallpaper seemed undamaged and in a good condition as well, although it seemed to be inspired from a magazine out of the 1970s. Clearly it wasn't to Sean's tastes, but it fit the decoration of the establishment perfectly. The owner of the hotel surely has an eye for decoration, Sean thought. Each piece of wooden or ornamental decoration was varnished or shined in such a way that one could see the reflection in it. The carpet also seemed to be completely undamaged and in pristine condition. Sean peered into one of the rooms while standing in the passage and could see that each room seemed to have its own particular type of wallpaper, design, and carpet. Where would all the supplies for redecorating come from? Sean thought, more curious at every turn. She decided to keep her thoughts to herself for now, at least until she had more courage or knew the owner a little bit better. Now, this is the dining room, my dear. We serve any meal, any time of the day. You can always speak to me about the times thereof as, well, you are the only guest now, and I do all the cooking around here. The menu options are limited, I'm afraid, as we have to grow our own produce here. You'll notice that there aren't many grocery stores in the vicinity, she joked. She patiently waited until Sean had finished looking around the room. Tables, once again, immaculately polished, accompanied with 4 chairs per table. The room held 7 tables with leafy potted plants in between the tables. Not much for privacy, Sean thought, but then reminded herself that this was not her community. Perhaps the people living here enjoyed the openness? Sean smiled at her when she noticed that the woman had stopped talking. The woman smiled back at her genuinely and moved on. Over here is the sitting room, if you're ever in need of company. As I mentioned before, there are no other guests at the moment, but others from the town like to come here for some company, so you'll learn much from them. If you're interested, that is, and, this is your room. The door opened without a creak, and Sean expected to see a Spartan-looking room, bare with a lopsided mattress and insect-ridden curtains. What she saw surprised her. I know, the woman said, seeing the reaction on her face. Everyone always expects the worst of my establishment. Goodness knows why. I have a passion for decorating. As you can see, you have an ensuite bathroom. All the rooms do. There are no televisions in the rooms, unfortunately, as I love getting the guests out of their rooms and socializing with the rest of the folks in town. I've just got the carpets put in. Reports from Old Yellow down the road says it's going to be a particularly cold winter, and Old Yellow has never been wrong in predicting the winter in all his long life. Sean glided into the room and was overtaken by sheer joy. I had a room similar to this one as I was growing up, she said. Oh, well, your decorator must have seen it in the same magazine as I have. No, I did the decorating of my room myself. I'm astounded this cannot be real. Sean stared in sheer delight at the navy blue carpet and pale green wallpaper, at the rose-patterned curtains and the dark duvet on her bed. The pattern of the material on the duvet was one of a water-rippled effect, almost as if one was standing at the bottom of a lake, in the twilight, looking up at the sky. She had instantly been in love with it when she had seen it, and the person who sold it to her had assured her it was an original piece of material as he had made it himself. Lying idiot, she thought to herself, and made a mental note that when she departed this place, she would definitely look him up and give him a piece of her mind regarding honesty to clients. I thought that you might like it, my dear. Sean was so engrossed in happiness at the room that she had almost forgotten the woman standing at the doorway. Anyway, I have to be off. If you need anything, just dial 7 from the phone on the table next to your bedside. It will divert the call directly to the phone in my office. She hurried away from the doorway, intent on giving Sean her privacy, then shuffled back, cheeks flushed. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry. I tend to do that when I'm excited, and frankly, I'm excited to see you. We haven't had visitors from out of time in an extremely long time. I've always asked the council whether we could move closer to other people, but they always come up with their mumble about cost and other political mumbo-jumbo. Anyway, I'm Mrs. Rose Canary, but you can call me Rose. I'm pleased to meet you, son. Dinner will be served in the dining room in about 20 minutes' time if you're hungry. Starving, Sean quickly added in case Rose changed her mind. Sean could smell something cooking in the kitchen from the moment she stepped into the place, and at that point she was ravenous. Excellent, excellent. I'll see you there, Rose winked. Quickly finding her way around the room, she located the shower and then realized she had not packed her shower gel nor shower sponge. Ugh. Cursing under her breath, she decided to shower anyway, only to find that citrus fragranced shower gel with a shower sponge was already waiting for her. Oh, she was so relieved. She didn't even wonder about the strangeness thereof. Usually hotels have soap, and she hated soap. It dried out her skin too much, hence her habitual usage of shower gel. She had a hot shower and used the same gel to wash her hair. Feeling refreshed, she stepped out into the warm room, sat on the bed, and scratched through her bag to see what she had brought with her. Ah, thank goodness, she remembered her wallet, with her credit card, bank card, and cold hard cash, which she didn't like keeping on her in case of theft, but was really glad to see the cash at that moment. She didn't think that this hotel, as wonderful as it was, would take credit cards, and she didn't see how such an isolated town would have banking facilities. Finding a new jeans and t-shirt on her bed, she raised her eyebrows and smiled, but didn't feel surprised. Apparently, the wonderful woman named Rose didn't miss the fact that she hadn't brought clothing or other toiletries with her. Scratching around makeup products and small packets of tissues in a handbag, she found a compact brush that she had brought with her and bought on one of her compulsive purchasing moments. But right now, she was surely glad that she had. She stood in front of the mirror and started brushing out her hair, her great mass of waves. She expected it to be much colder with her damp hair at night, but the air was surprisingly warm around her. She assumed that it was due to central heating in some area of the room, and whatever it was, she was grateful for the warmth. She scratched around in her bag again and located her inner earphones, and she almost leaped with joy. Music was always the key to her sanity and would surely preserve it in this place. As nice as it was, it certainly wasn't home, wherever that was. Maybe something familiar would help get her memory back. She placed the earphones in her ears, selected her favorite piece of classical music on her phone, and stared at the darkness outside her window. The tune started, and she found herself closing her eyes and bobbing her head to it. The second piece started, and she started rocking her body to the instrumental beat of the music. Shortly afterwards, her entire body started bobbing and swaying to the music. Eyes closed, she swayed and rocked to and fro, her damp hair a mass of dark waves sweeping side to side on her back, dampening the area, but all she felt was the rhythm of the music. Nothing else existed at that moment. Nothing else mattered at that moment. She felt alive, invigorated, sensing nothing but the passion in her heart that the music induced. She didn't even sense him at the door.